All right, let's talk about something that I think a lot of us secretly feel. That just deep, frustrating exhaustion that comes from small talk. You know what I mean. If you've ever felt completely drained by just polite chatter, then yeah, this one's for you. Does this sound familiar? You're at a party, maybe a work thing, and you're surrounded by all this noise, and the conversation about weekend plans or the weather just sucks the life right out of you. It's not just boring, right? It feels physically draining. And because you tend to duck out of these kinds of chats, you've probably been slapped with a few labels, right? Oh, they're just shy, or maybe they're a little socially awkward. Some people might even mistake your silence for arrogance. But what if all of that is just completely missing the point? Well, it turns out psychology has a totally different take on this. It suggests that this isn't some kind of social flaw you need to fix. Nope. Instead, it's a direct result of your cognitive architecture, literally, the way your brain is built. So think about that. You're just like, for small talk, isn't really about your personality or your social skills or anything like that. It's a fundamental reflection of how your brain is actually wired to process reality. So let's get into it. Why does your mind instinctively reject that kind of casual chatter? The real reasons are honestly pretty fascinating. Okay, so the first big idea here is something called complex cognitive processing. A lot of people might see the world in pretty simple, straightforward terms. But your mind? It's different. It's naturally wired to think in complex layers and systems. So when you hear someone talking, you're not just hearing the words. Your brain is already digging deeper, searching for the patterns and connections underneath it all. And this has a real physical effect on you. When a conversation gets too predictable or repetitive, your brain basically goes, nope, not interested. It actually stops releasing those feel-good stimulation chemicals, like dopamine. And the result? That crash, that sudden mental fatigue and boredom. Your brain isn't just being picky. It physically needs something new and complex to chew on to stay engaged. The second piece of the puzzle is this idea of hyperconnectivity. Think of your brain as being in a constant state of connecting the dots. It's always trying to link different ideas and explore the deeper meaning behind, well, everything. And that is exactly why you crave those big conversations, the ones about abstract ideas or psychology or the universe. And this really gets to the heart of why small talk feels so awful. It takes your hyper-connected brain and forces it to just paddle around in the shallow end. It creates this incredibly frustrating mismatch between what your brain wants to do and what it's allowed to do. It leaves you feeling not just bored, but kind of misunderstood. You've probably experienced this yourself, right? You're quiet in a group, just listening to the chatter, but then, the second the conversation turns to something complex, something abstract, something genuinely interesting, bam, you're suddenly alive, you're engaged, you're articulate. People might look at you a little funny, confused by the sudden change, but all that's happening is your brain is finally getting the food it was starving for. This all leads to a really powerful shift in how we think about loneliness. That feeling of being alone in a crowded room, it's not just a cliche. For you, it's a very real cognitive experience. It has almost nothing to do with how many people are around you. See, the thing everyone assumes, is that if you hate small talk, you must not like people. But the reality? It's so much deeper than that. It's not that you dislike people, you dislike the shallow, empty interactions that we're often told are connecting. So really, your avoidance isn't a rejection of other humans. It's more like a quality control system. You're looking for quality over quantity, and you instinctively filter out the interactions that just feel meaningless. And this is the absolute key takeaway. When you feel that loneliness in a crowd, you're not socially isolated. You are cognitively isolated. You can be surrounded by 100 people, but if your mind can't find that deep, meaningful connection it craves, you're going to feel completely alone. Okay, so what do we do with this information? How do we turn this into a strength? Because this is not about fixing some kind of flaw. It's about learning how to harness the unique power of your mind and learning to recharge in a way that actually, well, recharges you. This totally explains why you so often prefer your own company. Think about it. That surface-level socializing, it just interrupts your natural flow of thought. While other people might get energized by a party, you recharge in quiet solitude. That's when you give your mind the space it needs to do its thing, to think deeply. And really, if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just a simple fact of your wiring. You are built for depth, for curiosity, for meaning, in a world that, let's be honest, often settles for the shallow end. So, it's time to throw out those old labels. Forget about being too much when the conversation gets deep, or too quiet when it's just chatter. This is simply about understanding the hidden reasons your mind works the way it does, and maybe, just maybe, finally giving yourself permission to be okay with that. You know, understanding this can really change everything. It can reframe your past experiences, make sense of your present, and totally empower your future. So the only real question left is, now that you get it, now that you understand how your mind is wired, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to live?